Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will learn the code operation part of send ETH. We have already learned how to configure a private key in the previous sections of the course. How do we know the wallet address corresponding to this private key for the configured exchange object? On FMZ, you can use the exchange.io address function to get the wallet address corresponding to the configured private key. In this lesson, we use the Goerli testnet environment to run the code. Run this code using the address method to get the wallet's public key address. Here we click execute. And we can see it will display our wallet public key address here. Once we know our wallet address, we can use the Ethereum RPC method, ETH get transaction count, to query the transaction count for that wallet address. This count is commonly used in Ethereum as the nonce parameter when transferring funds. In Ethereum, nonce is used to ensure that each transaction is unique. It is an incrementing number that automatically increases by 1 each time a new transaction is sent. Therefore, when sending a transaction to a smart contract, we need to provide a nonce value to ensure that the transaction is unique and the order is correct. To call the RPC method, we need to get the current nonce using the exchange.io API ETH get transaction count function. The entry function main gets the wallet address of the current user first. Then it calls ETH get transaction count, an Ethereum RPC interface function, to get the nonce value of the current wallet address, which indicates how many transactions have been sent from that address. In this function, ETH get transaction count has two parameters, wallet address for the wallet address to query, and pending for the block status to query. Finally, we use the log method outputs the wallet address, the current nonce value, and the toAmount method converts the nonce value to a decimal nonce value. Here we click execute. Wait for a moment. And it shows that the nonce value indicates how many transactions have been sent to the wallet address. Since the current nonce value is 2, we can deduce that the wallet address has sent 2 transactions. Before explaining the transfer operation, let's take a look at the specifications for the use of gas when transferring money on Ethereum. A certain amount of ETH tokens will be consumed as the gas fee. This gas fee is specifically determined by 2 parameters. The first is gas price. The gas fee on the Ethereum network is always fluctuating based on market demand and what users are willing to pay. So, writing a fixed gas fee in the code is sometimes not ideal. You can use the ETH gas price method we learned about earlier, which gets the average gas price. The second parameter is gas limit. A standard Ethereum transfer here has a gas limit of 21,000 units. Once we understand the concepts of nonce, gas price, gas limit, we can test transfers. On FMZ, We can use the transfer function that encapsulates a very simple and easy to use transfer function. Exchange.io API ETH send. When used as a transfer, the third parameter of Exchange.io is fixed to send to address. The parameter is the address of the receiving ETH when transferring money, and to amount is the amount of ETH to be transferred. Nonce, gas price, and gas limit can be used by FMZ with the values automatically obtained by the system by default. Of course, you can also specify them. For example, we have set these three values here. Knowing these parameters, when we then transfer a certain amount of ETH to an address on our test network globally, where we use the default values for nonce, gas price, and gas limit. Let's take a look at the code, which implements an Ethereum transfer operation through the RPC interface between the FMZ platform and Ethereum. After first obtaining the current wallet address, it sends a sum of 0.01 Ether to the specified address, which is the other wallet address, through the ETH send transaction interface of Ethereum. The function returns a transaction hash indicating that the transaction has been submitted to the Ethereum network. Note that since the Ethereum transfer quantity is in Wei, it will need to be processed as a value in Wei using a custom function to inner amount. We click Execute. Just wait for a moment. And depending on the result, the hash value of the transfer will be returned here. So how to view the specific results of the transfer? We can query transaction hash at Goerli Etherscan here. We pass it and click search. We can see that the page displays several parameters. The first one is transaction hash. This is the hash of a transaction that can be used to uniquely identify a transaction. In the blockchain, each transaction has a unique hash value. Block is the height of the block that transaction is on, that is the block number. Block confirmation is the number of blocks that have been confirmed for the transaction. The from and to are the wallet addresses of the sender and receiver, respectively. The value is the value or transfer amount of the transaction. In this case, is 0.01 ETH. The last one we see is TXN fee. That is, we can see how much ETH this transaction costs. We can see that here is gas price multiplied by gas used by TXNs in Ether. The gas fee is that the burnt fee. The gas fee is the gas price multiplied by the gas limit. And the gas limit costs 100% or 21,000. On FMZ platform, we can also write code to query the transaction hash. We use the ETH get transaction receipt method to query. We click execute here. Just wait for a moment. And these parameters are information about the Ethereum transactions, which includes the hash value of the exchange in the block and the blockchain block number, the address of the sender and receiver, the amount of gas used for the transaction, an array of log objects, Bloom filters, and so on. These parameters are the same as those returned by Etherscan and can be used to query for detailed information about the transaction, such as whether the transaction was executed successfully or not, the address of the contact, the address of the contract, and so on. In this lesson, we learned how to transfer money through FMZ platform and Ethereum RPC interface. Before transferring money, we need to get the current wallet address and nonce value, set the appropriate gas price and gas limit parameters. Of course, we can use the default values, which is more convenient. At the same time, after the transfer is completed, we can also use the Ethereum RPC interface to query the details of the transaction hash, including the status of the transaction, the use of gas, the array of log objects, and other information. Through the study of this lesson, I hope you can understand the transaction operation process of Ethereum and master the basic transfer skills. At the same time, in practical applications, you should also pay attention to protecting your private key information to prevent asset loss. Thank you all.